My name is Andréia. I am from Cultura Inglesa São Paulo, here. Yeah, right here. The neighbor. And I'll be talking about visual literacy today. Just for me to have an idea, how many of you teach at a language center, a language school? In a regular school? Private teachers? Okay, so we have a mix. Or any other different kind of context, teaching English, in company? No? Sorry? So this is just for me to have an idea of what you do and the students that you have. How many of you teach teenagers and adults and children, small children, young learners? So you teach everybody, right? Great. So I'm here to talk about visual literacy, and I think the most important thing to do first is to define what visual literacy is. Any ideas of what is visual literacy? Do you think it's an ability, a skill, or something that you learn through life? Something we learn through life. Are we born literate, visually literate? Do we learn as we grow up? We learn. So I've brought two definitions, and I'd like you to take a look and see if you agree with them or not. The first definition is visual literacy is the ability to interpret, understand, and evaluate visual images. And the same definition. A second part of this definition by Brister and Drake is that visual literacy is based on the idea that pictures can be read and that meaning can be communicated through a process of reading, something that is not written, but something that is seen as an image. And when I say image, I'm talking about still images, photographs, pictures, signs, and moving images like films, animation. So it's all everything that communicates an idea, but it's not the written word. And do you think this is a new concept? This is a new idea to be visually literate? You're right. Not really. For example, these images are called glyphs. They are prehistorical. So in prehistory, I was literate if I was able to read these symbols and understand them. Do you have any idea what they are? What they mean? Any guesses? Like kill somebody. Yeah, with an X. Actually, these glyphs are Mayan glyphs that they were used for people to read cardinal signs, so the direction of north, south, and the other ones, they are Greek glyphs, and they are used in agriculture, so to signal when was the best time for harvests or to grow crops. And at that time, in prehistory, only 1% of the population was able to read and draw these glyphs, and this 1% of people were responsible for controlling the economy. So I could only be a more active part of social life if I knew how to read and write these symbols. Nowadays, some symbols that we see around, for example, this one. Do you all understand what that means? What do you, if you see that on the street, what do you think you should do? Caution, attention. So some symbols we have to be able to read for our own safety, and they are all around, and we learn. Nobody's taught us that this means caution, but we know for some reason, because it's yellow, and the sign tells us to pay attention. So it's a matter of life and death. We need to know how to read it. This photograph, for example, do you know it? Yeah. Have you seen it before? Yeah. Do you know the context? Mm-hmm. Do you know who this girl is?
It's a Syrian girl, and he actually won the prize for the best photograph in conflict zone, something like that.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Paula.
Can you hear Paula? Mm-hmm. Did you hear more or less? Yeah. So Paula said that this photograph has won a prize because it was taken at a conflict area. And this girl, she's actually from Afghanistan. And it's a very, very famous image. But if I don't know the story behind it, let's imagine we don't know all that she's from Afghanistan. You just see a beautiful girl, right? And the eyes speak. And if I understand the story behind it, it makes me more and more able to understand what this image means. Do you know this film? Have you watched it? So WALL-E is another example of how it is how visual literacy evolved, because it's a film that it's barely spoken. It's basically based on moving images, and I need to understand the story by seeing moving images one after the other. And we understand the story, don't we? The more literate you are, the better you understand the story. So developing visual literacy nowadays is something that is part of our lives. We do it naturally. It's not something that you teach people. However, when we teach English or when we teach any other subject at school, we can try to foster a little bit students' knowledge and students' literacy of visual images. Why? Because we can think, I am an English teacher, so I teach English, right? So why is it important for me to develop visual literacy with my students? I mean, if you think it's important, but because you're here now, I'm assuming you think it's important too. Why do you think it's important?
To build some more vocabulary.
Okay, it helps build vocabulary. Thank you. What's your name? Jonas. Any other ideas?
Images are not related to language. Actually, no. It's about repertoire. It doesn't mean actually language. So you can share meaning without the person without the need to know grammar itself. Like you can share some opinion.
Okay. I agree. Did you hear Paula? I'm gonna repeat what you said. Paula said that you can communicate meaning and ideas without language, but with images. And this is part of communication overall, and I agree with her. We teach English, we teach language, but teaching a language is more than teaching the grammar and the vocabulary. It's also teaching how to communicate, and images are part of communication more and more. Some of the reasons that I listed, first one is to help students. Yes, Olivia?
Phonetical symbols.
Good question. Do you know, do you agree that the symbols, they are part of visual literacy? Yes, they are.
Yes, we can understand and read through the symbols.
Exactly.
To read the words.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, because when you're reading phonemic symbols, you're reading images, yes, symbols used to represent something. So some of the things that I listed, one of them is to help students interpret images that surround us, because we are surrounded by images. We've always been, but now more and more and more. Do you use social media? How much text do you see, and how many images do you see? Images and videos. We see way more images and videos nowadays than we see text, but images, they are everywhere, and they are not only there for an aesthetic purpose, but they are there to communicate an idea. So the images now, they play a crucial role in understanding and conveying messages. So you have to be able to interpret what you see. You also need to be able to communicate your messages through images sometimes. And the means of communication, they more and more, all the time, they favor visual images. We use text less and we use images more. And also, in terms of language, using images, because they are part of everyday life, we may maximize the outcome of communicative tasks, so we can encourage communication, and we can develop HOTS and LOTS. Do you know what these are? HOTS and LOTS? HOTS are higher order thinking skills, and LOTS are lower order thinking skills. So according to Bloom has a taxonomy of development of thinking skills. So these are skills that go beyond language. So lower order thinking skills, it's your ability to list things, describe, put things in categories. So it's basically what children learn when they are in primary school. When children go to secondary education, they start developing higher order thinking skills. So they go beyond listing, memorizing. They start learning how to summarize ideas or evaluate positive points and negative points. And there is a famous taxonomy called Bloom's taxonomy that lists these skills. And when we use other resources, like images, we can help students develop these skills in English. Because sometimes the students, they already have these skills in Portuguese or in their first language, and we need to help them transfer what they know in Portuguese to the second language, to English. There is an approach of working with visual literacy that I like very much, but I'm not going to tell what it is. We are going to test how it works first. Have you seen this image before? Have you seen this photograph? It's okay. If you haven't, it's fine. Can you please, with the person next to you, just describe what you see? Just this, describe. So I can see people sitting somewhere. Can you do that together, please? Ah, very smart. What's that? Yes, I know, because I have to credit the image, so it's spoiling. Okay, can you tell me just what you see? Just describe it. What do you see? Watching something. How do I know it's interesting?
Because everybody's paying attention.
Yes.
Nobody's checking their phones. They're not checking their phones, right? Why not?
Because something's very...
Because they didn't need... Yeah, we know it's from 1952. We know it's from 1952. What else do you see?
Glasses.
What kind of glasses?
Sunglasses.
Sunglasses.
Yes, so that's...
I think
3D glasses. Maybe we don't know. We don't know yet. We can't say. Is it indoors or outdoors? Indoors. So it's probably what kind of glasses? 3D glasses. Yeah, because they are indoors. What else do you see? Anything else that is interesting?
For me, it seems that they have to listen to that person that says. For me, that is something dangerous. It's something that makes me afraid of it. I don't know, a person, dictator, that everybody has to pay attention to it.
Okay, so there's somebody speaking, probably.
Showing or...
Chances are we don't know because this person is not part of the image, right? But we can guess. Black and white, yeah, part of the description. So we know it's an old photograph. Now I'll give you 2 more minutes to try to think about other things related to this picture that go beyond the description. One thing that I'd like you to think about is how do you think people are feeling? it's hard to say. We need to guess how people are feeling. And I'll tell you a very important piece of information. It's the first time that something new is happening. This image was taken for the first time during this event. Can you guess what was happening for the first time when this picture was taken? Can you work together, please? Hi, Julio. How are you? I'm good, thanks. I didn't say it. I asked if they were. I didn't say it. Spot on. Okay, so what's happening for the first time?
First colored movie.
No.
First 3D film. First time a 3D film was screened in the USA in 1952. So this possibility of image was taken for the first time on this day. Now that we know it's the first time of something big, can you guess who these people are? Who do you think these people are? Are they like me and you watching? No? Important people. VIP guests. Yeah, so it's not you and me. We're not VIP. We're not invited. Do you think they're part of the cast of the film?
No, no way.
No way. Why not? Maybe some, yeah? So what we are doing here, we are looking at the image and we are trying to go beyond because we are trying to contextualize it in history, right? Actually, this photograph was very famous because it was the cover of a magazine called Life. It's a very famous magazine, American magazine, and it was the cover. And actually, the review of the film was really bad because the film is called Buona Devil. So it's a monster horror film. So the review is awful, but the technology is new. So this was a big thing. What we're doing with this photograph, we are analyzing two different things. And this is the approach that I usually take when I work with images in the classroom. We are analyzing the syntax of the image and the semantics of the image. What does that mean? That means that when I analyze the syntax, I basically describe what I see. So I describe the graphic composition of the image, the organization of a photograph or any type of other image, how the camera was placed, the perspective, the position of the objects, the colors, and these are choices. In this case, the photographer decided to take a picture of the people, not the screen, right? And that's a conscious decision. It's not an accident. The person decided to do that for a reason. When I analyze the semantics, I go a little bit beyond. I start wondering, or I need to try to find out who created the image, the context. So what was happening? Was it an important event? Was the picture taken by accident? Has anything been omitted, included, or altered in the image? By Photoshop, for example. And it's not so clear to see. Maybe because the images can be changed and we don't even notice. And how does the image relate to broader issues in the world? So what's its context in history? What's the importance? And these are things that we can help students develop and go beyond just describing what they see. Because most of the times do you use a course book? Yes? When we use a course book, we have lots of pictures, right? And what we usually do is compare the images or describe. What do you see? How does the image make you feel? And these are all valid questions, but if we want to help students become more visually literate, we need to go a little bit beyond, right? So we're going to do some practical activities, and my my objective is for you to take away some practical ideas to use with your students. So we're going to do 2 practical activities, and if time allows, we do another one. Okay? Right. And take a look at these sentences, please.